Greetings and welcome this evening of your time as you create time to exist. How are you all? Oh, thank you very much. Allow me to entitle this interaction this evening of your time, Getting the Message. To some degree, this will be a discussion about what you sometimes refer to as redundancy. First of all, allow us to begin by sharing that you have enhanced a particular approach that your society has created to interact, to begin to, perhaps you can say, send out the message of your existence to other societies, to other worlds, to extraterrestrial consciousness, and as well begin to scan back in that sense for the reply. You refer to this program as SETI, or Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. In that sense, your systems are, shall we say, scanning, if you will, some of the more, shall we say, likely locations, some of the more likely stellar bodies you refer to as stars for signs of life. And in that sense, one of the aspects that will allow your scientists to determine that perhaps an area is deserving of further investigation is what you sometimes refer to as redundancy, or a redundant signal. For it is, shall we say, conceived of that if something is repeating itself in a particular series, in a particular way, that repetition, in a sense, will represent intelligence, and that repetition will represent a message being sent, perhaps you can say, back to you, colloquially speaking. To extrapolate upon this idea, you can apply this very same concept to your actual life and the living of your life itself. For your higher self, if you wish to make the separation between your higher self and your physical self, perhaps you can say one way to look at it is sends messages or allows certain ideas to come to the awareness of your physical self along a timeline in a fashion that you would refer to as unfoldment. Therefore, you may understand in like fashion, whereby your scientists are waiting for a redundancy or waiting for a repetition to begin to, in that sense, get the message from another society, that your higher self, much the same way, will seem to send messages to your physical self in a redundant form to allow you to identify that particular notion, that particular idea that is repeating itself has a significance, contains, perhaps you can say, a message. So therefore, this can be applied in your life as follows. If you perceive that there are patterns that you create within your life, things perhaps which you do not prefer in any way, shape, or form, which seem to, quote unquote, keep coming around, keep coming back, in that sense are a redundancy. You may understand, by extension, from the aforementioned analogy, and in no uncertain terms, that redundancy, that repetition is a message from your higher self. Your willingness to say, oh my goodness, here that comes again, woe is me, does not allow you to use and identify, first of all, the redundancy, but second of all, the message. It fixates you in what you may call victimhood. Oh, everything happens to me, rather than allowing you to use all your creations in a positive way. Individuals seem more than willing to use the positive seeming creations in a positive way, but your line is drawn many times when you find that there is a redundancy of seemingly negative occurrences. Well, I created the positive, but I would never create the negative. This particular attitude is, perhaps you can say, only taking half of the responsibility of creating your reality. And you truly do create it all. However, you do not create the negative seeming occurrences for no reason. They are not superfluous. In fact, they are the results of notions that you have bought into, which no longer serve you. But in that you create your lives and define yourself by your past, when you buy into a particular idea and adopt it and act that way, it becomes, in that sense, part of what you consider to be your mechanism or your automatic behavior. And the way that you can change that automatic behavior only will always begin by the acknowledgement of the belief that lies behind that behavior. For although your actions create your life in a physical world, the foundations for your actions are your beliefs, emotions, and thoughts. And only by tracing back to the fundamental belief which has you acting in a particular way, acknowledging that belief, assigning a new belief, extrapolating the actions that one would have with that new belief, and then performing those actions, the actions of the preferred belief, having acknowledged the old belief, only then can you change them and get the effect of changing them. But because acknowledgement is the first step, your, shall we say, layered presentation of yourself constantly delivers messages to the forefront of your personality, to your conscious mind, in the form many times of redundant symbols to allow you to see, look over here, look over here, look over here. If you look at the symbol, if you glean the meaning from it, if you derive how it serves you, then you have the belief that you can acknowledge and then change it. If you say here, that comes again, you shut down the mechanism. The denial of what keeps coming around simply again tucks it back into what you might call your subconscious closet, and it comes back knocking nastier and louder. For the idea is you are creating it. It is your child. It is screaming for your awareness, not to be obnoxious, not to annoy you, but to allow you to see as one who is deciding to be a conscious creator. Here is a belief that perhaps you have bought into. Perhaps you have bought into it out of not knowing there was any other belief. Perhaps you were spoon-fed that, not knowing again that there was an alternative. But here it is. You do have it. You do have it. I will show you. I will show you. When you acknowledge it, once again, you own it. Then you can change it. When you deny it, you shut the door to the closet. And then the belief knocks louder. This is why many times you will have what you call negative downward spirals in your life, and many times perceive that you have reached the bottom. However, this can all simply be reversed by, first of all, being aware of the fact that the redundancy is, all right to use your term, trying to tell you something. And that in the acknowledgement that you create your entire reality, your willingness to be receptive to what it is telling you is again the thing that will allow you to become aware of beliefs you say you don't prefer. Many individuals say, well, I have a subconscious mind. There are many beliefs tucked within that subconscious mind, and I can't get to them. What will I do? How can I change? Good question. The answer is to look at your life. To begin to, again, not only zealously use the positive, but realize that what is being interpreted as negative is a creation and can also be used as well. Your willingness to approach the things that you don't prefer from the perspective of a creator results, rather than saying, why me, in you asking, all right, I do see what is negative about this, but I will ask, how does this serve me exactly the way it is? What does it show me about what I believe? This keeps coming around. I am ready to look at it. What is the belief? What must I believe to be experiencing this particular event? And this is a creator speaking. It is acknowledging that, again, perhaps there are some creations that you unwittingly created, but now you are willing to allow it to become conscious. When you say, I wish to access my subconscious mind, and then your life begins to bubble up with many redundant negative things, and then you cower and run, you display to the universe that perhaps you are not quite ready to look at what's in your subconscious closet. But I assure you that the timing of it presenting itself is your sign that you always ask for, that you can handle it. For there is simply nothing within you that you can create, that you cannot handle, and that, to extend this idea, you cannot use in a positive way. Anything in your reality can be used in a positive way. Obviously, there are certain things which you will overwhelmingly have a tendency to label negative. But if you use these creations in any positive way, thereby yielding a positive effect, you may understand that you can always get positive effects, but not by denial, only by acknowledgement. So if you say, well, I'm the type of person that attracts this type of relationship, as an example, why do I keep attracting it? You can look at what a person, to make it more generic, must believe. What would any person have to believe to be attracting this type of relationship? As an example, this can be applied across the board to any instance in your life and need not be, shall we say, simply narrowly applied to relationships. But the idea is, if you begin to be willing to ask yourself, what must I believe to be creating this? What must I believe to be feeling this? What must I believe to be thinking this? The beliefs present themselves one by one on a silver platter. Your willingness to acknowledge the negative beliefs which no longer serve you, but which you are buying into and therefore acting like you believe them, your willingness to acknowledge them equalizes them to all other beliefs. The denial gives it more weight. So first of all, saying, all right, I realize I feel this way. Therefore, I must believe something. What do I believe? I believe this. Whatever the belief is, I know that I believe this. Once you get to that point of acknowledging the thing that you don't prefer, but that you do believe, you can once again extrapolate, how would a person with that belief act? Well, they would do this, this, and that. Well, I always do that. All right. Therefore, I believe this, feel that way, think that way, act that way. Now that I am acknowledging this, now that I am putting it out on the table, allow me to push it aside and put a few other options on the table. For I have equalized this to all other choices within me. Therefore, what is the belief that I prefer? Well, I prefer this, and state the belief. In your imagination, you can then see how a person, again, if you wish to be generic, would act that has the new belief. Well, they would do this, this, and that. Well, I never do that. Well, when I see a person acting that way, do I like that? Oh, yes. Wonderful idea. Just hadn't thought of it. All right. Now you have the template. Now you have acknowledged the old belief, seen how it has you acting, conjured up the new belief, seen how a person would act with the new belief. And you have two totally different sets of actions. One representing the unpreferred belief, one representing the preferred belief. Your willingness to begin to act according to the new belief, having completely acknowledged the old belief, gives you the effect of the new belief in exactly the same way that you got the effect from the old belief. So this is nothing that you need to brush up on. You're experts, I assure you. You can allow your reality to be, in that sense, hospitable, and to deliver to you the things that will serve you, the things that you are ready to transform, if you will simply define that that is what you want. You have seen the effects of leading the opposite point of view. I need not tell you. But you can simply decide, I am a conscious creator. I will now establish what I believe and begin to choose consciously what I wish to believe. Many of the beliefs that you have, you will prefer to maintain. Other beliefs will most obviously simply not be according to your preference, and changing and acting according to those new beliefs that replace the unpreferred beliefs have results in your life. Those results begin to replace the negative results of the old belief. And you do not run from the old belief, you have fully acknowledged it. You simply walk toward consciously, because you say so, the new belief, which then has the effect of distancing you from the effect of the old belief, but is not running from, is not denying anything within you. For I remind you, though you present yourselves as physical, pointed, focused beings, that is but one aspect of who you are. You contain everything within the totality of who you are. So truly you can run from nothing, for A, there is nowhere to go, and B, everything is already within you. There is nowhere to put them. So it is not the recognition that you contain things that you do not prefer that can destroy you. It is the recognition that you will empower those things that you do not prefer within you. For obviously you contain it all. If you simply have a notion, you contain it, or you could not understand it. So you contain the potential of what you would call the most horrible of the outcomes on your planet, but you also contain the potential for the most sublime. And you need not deny that the horrible presentation exists. That is polarity. That is the exploration of positive and negative. But what you choose to focus on is what determines what you get. And if you are willing to focus on the positive, not disregarding the negative, but simply putting it to the periphery, you begin to get the effects of the positive focus, which then once again replace the seemingly negative old effects. The negativity still exists, for you are it everything. Positive, neutral, negative, everything. But the point is, they become irrelevant to your choices. The only reason they are now relevant to your choices is because no one has told you this, or you have not realized what I am saying consciously until now. But the simple notion, simply becoming aware of what I am saying for but a split second, gives you access to using all your creations in a positive way and allowing the negative ones not to go away, but transform into the positive. Again, you cannot get rid of the negative. There is nowhere to put it, but you can choose and therefore experience only the positive. Perhaps one of the first beliefs you may wish to look at is if you truly believe that. For many individuals in and of themselves will simply say, well, you can only appreciate the positive by experiencing the negative to compare it to. Now, I assure you that's one way. But I assure you also as a living example that that is not the only way. That is simply one way to appreciate positivity. You need not have it stand out in relief from the negative to fully appreciate it. You can simply also appreciate it just because you say so. Just because you prefer to embody that, period. Perhaps you may wish to give that a thought. You can use all your creations by simply utilizing what we sometimes term the wild card statement. All right, how does this serve me exactly the way it is? If you are willing to be open and honest, If you are truly willing to look at who you are, you will always find some service. And your willingness to only begin to look at things in terms of how it serves you is using your creations, not denying them. And as you do, transform the negative beliefs to the old ones and begin to get the new positive effects, there will be less of a seemingness of having many negative occurrences that you just go through your lives relabeling. At first, it may seem that way. It depends how full your closet is. But once you begin to change the beliefs and the corresponding actions, the effects change. And eventually, there is nothing that you would seem to label negative. None. Zero. Zip. That is the point that is obtainable in your reality. It is workable. It is obtainable. It is, as you say, doable. But only if you will at least entertain it as a notion. So if you are willing to believe that you can balance off the positive and negative, and that is one truth, but you can also be aware of the negative and only experience the positive, that is just as true. Both of them are now on your table before you. I will allow you to choose whichever you want. But acting like you can experience all positive does take the form of only being willing to look at any circumstance from the perspective of how it serves you. Is this clear? All right. Allow us to proceed to interacting with you, for it brings us great joy, and we thank you and express our unconditional love and appreciation for your willingness to communicate with us as equals in this way. It is not that we have anything to offer your society that you do not already contain, and in fact, if we did, you would certainly and simply not understand a word I am saying anyway. Your ability to even understand what I am saying is in and of itself your evidence that you contain it. For, again, as an analogy, if you ask a question and someone gives you the answer and you say, well, that's right, how did you know? The point is, obviously, you already knew it. You can only perceive a reality if you first contain it. So anything desirable that you feel, that you see within me or any of my respective society simply is a mirror to you of what you contain, or you would not even have the ability to appreciate it. So perhaps one of the exercises that you can begin doing to begin to validate who you are in no uncertain terms is patting yourself on the back when you realize this. It is all right to do so, literally, with your hand, patting your own back. You will only expand as you acknowledge, shall I say, you will only consciously expand when you acknowledge and validate who you are, not what everyone else says you should be, who you know yourself to be. And when you are willing to be that person most fully, certain aspects of your reality will drop away, for now they are dealing with you. But you will also attract many new aspects in your reality that are representative of your willingness to boldly be who you are. So you will lose nothing. Simply shift your perspective and perhaps change a few friends in the process. I thank you for your willingness to interact with me in this way, and ask you now how we may mutually be of service to each other. Shedding. Ace.
I'm going through a period where I'm questioning what I'm up to.
Well, how exciting. Yes. And how inquisitive.
My approach in life, where I am, where I want to be.
All right.
And I'm seeing the shakeup around me. I have a staff member, a key staff member, that very hesitantly said, "Doctor, I want to leave." I said, "So do I."
Well, you're in agreement about that.
Yes, and she's leaving, and I'm certainly trusting that the appropriate person will be drawn in to not take her place, but to
represent who you now define yourself to be.
Exactly.
Nice.
Staff the office for the next phase of growth and development.
Now, before you continue, are you clear in your intention of who you define yourself to be? For in this in-between period, as you have said, your degree of clarity will then allow the attraction of the appropriate symbology to fulfill that degree of clarity. So if you are very vague about it, you will attract a vague symbol. Have you used the intermediary period of time as an opportunity to clarify your vision? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. What have you come up with? And what does the opening, that individual no longer being there, actually now allow you to do that you could not do with that individual in place?
It allows me to move into the whole dimension of manifesting an expanded vision, which that person does not share, given her own definition of who she is and what she's about.
Did you thank her?
Yes, at some level.
All right.
I certainly.
Tricky answer. Not what I meant. You may wish to consider doing it in a more blatant level as you are physical beings.
I put her first.
I do assume if you truly understand that she has been of service to you and that nobody can be anything but, that the sentiment of appreciation, gratitude, and thankfulness will be sincere.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely, certainly.
Then communicate that.
I did communicate that, and I absolutely supported her in whatever she chooses to do. In the meantime, I'm defining who I am, recognizing that there's some things I do that perhaps are no longer consistent with who I am.
Such as?
There are certain patterns of behavior that aren't any longer serving me.
Such as?
Habitual things that I do. For instance, leave the office, go to a local tavern, have a beer and a hamburger. I've always enjoyed that. But there's something else I want to create. I want to create a whole new dimension of experience. And it's occurred to me that if I want something different to show up, I've got to start doing things differently.
All right. You are, as you say upon your planet, a doctor of alignment, correct?
Yes.
Are you willing to begin to allow individuals to begin to access their inner alignment in terms of clear intention, desire, definition, deservability, and clear action?
Certainly.
All right. Perhaps you can begin now to evaluate working that or playing that into the scenario. Therefore, you will truly be accessing more of a causal plane, perhaps you can say, rather than a Band-Aid approach. Does this ring with you?
It certainly does.
All right.
It certainly does.
That will also then attract a different style of person to quote unquote be assisted. Understanding from your point of view that the assistance always flows both ways.
So I can expect a change not only in staff, but in patients.
Well, if you change your attitude and approach, nothing else can happen. You can only experience the reality that you are the vibration of. And when you change that vibration, again, many of the things in place will still vibrate in accord with who you are and remain, but many will also, in that sense, transform altogether out of your reality. And these may be the individuals that you often say, all right, perhaps you wished weren't there to begin with.
Well, that certainly seems like what's happening.
All right.
There's
You do not sound very excited about it.
Well,
Implying an underlying doubt or trust in the outcome you do not prefer.
Well, I'm actually in that place where I'm able to talk about the situation because I've just become conscious of it. The frustration I was experiencing of perhaps being who I did not prefer, not really sure who I do prefer, and expecting changes to take place, things to drop out, new things to be integrated, but not having a clue what that was. ready to enter boldly into a new expression of who I am, but not having a clue what form that's going to take. Just recognizing that the status quo is no longer acceptable.
All right, but that is not completely accurate. And saying, in that sense, that you do not have a clue is another, perhaps you can say, crafty way of stating that you do not have a clear intention, which we have been discussing over the last several interactions for a reason.
Understood.
Therefore, begin now to get in touch with what you would prefer your intention to be, rather than settling for any less. That will open up a whole new doorway. Is this specifically applicable?
It is specifically applicable.
All right. Do you have in your imagination a methodology through which you will now proceed to access what it is, with nobody else telling you who you should and shouldn't be, that you desire to be and manifest? Do you have a method that your imagination can provide to begin to access these ideas?
Yes.
What is that method?
Be quiet and listen.
All right. Understand that when you are quiet is when you will hear. And you can use as an analogy the notion of literally listening for a sound so quiet to be barely audible as a form of focus. But you are not truly listening for an external symbol. And if you are willing to be receptive and open and truly listen without saying a word in your mind's eye or your mind's ear, you will get what is sometimes called a revelatory awareness. The information, the knowingness will come in a chunk, which you can then interpret. Then, in that sense, translate. Understood?
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shutting.
Hello.
Ice.
Hello.
Greetings.
Oh, what a life this is.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
They all are.
Exactly. Where are you now?
I am in my scout craft, orbiting my planet of Esasani.
Am I correct in saying that there is an audience, spectators,
In what way?
present in this interaction?
From your end or mine?
Your end.
To some degree, yes. There is the tapping in from, perhaps you can say, a larger craft, though you may perceive it to be to some degree peripheral.
Okay.
If there are others in that sense who have something to add, it simply automatically comes through in that way.
Who are you?
Ace, in a sense,
Okay.
through the channel.
Yes. I guess I'm not sure what the question is. I'm just been feeling a lot about my relationship with Shira, for one.
In what way?
Well, I've been moved quite a bit by this new, I guess, a greeting of a sort through my friend Denise.
All right.
And it's been quite moving for me. Just alone, I've been feeling a great amount of love and a powerful connection. And
What this individual is referring to as Shira will, for the purposes of clarification, represent another individual from my planet, perhaps you can say, that is a female. Do proceed.
Yeah.
That is accessed through the consciousness of another individual that this individual is in communication with.
thank you for clarifying that.
Oh, thank you.
That sounds confusing. Basically, where it's left me is, or is leaving me, is that I feel very strong connection to another. I have no name. I have somewhat of a.
Before you proceed,
Yeah,
not to interrupt.
I know.
Nothing is an interruption unless you label it to be anyway. Are you doing this at the cost of your life, of your here and now, of who you define yourself to be, choose to be, and boldly move as.
This is why I'm struggling so much, right?
Well, the point is that you can cease to utilize that as a distraction. When it comes up, it will simply be blatantly obvious in the moment what it means in that moment. But you need not use the, shall we say, subsequent moments to figure it out. Everything is quite obvious when it needs to be. When it is not present, simply regrounding to your here and now reality and beginning to look at what is right in front of you and choosing from those options will, perhaps you can say, replace what you are perceiving as a paralysis.
Yeah.
Simply allow it to be obvious. Do not fixate or obsess upon it. And if nothing is available in a given moment, again, reground to that moment by utilizing and accessing what is available.
Well, I've been doing that. I just, I understand what you're saying. Stay grounded. Stay in touch with who I am right now.
Simple suggestion.
Yeah.
But what is really the issue?
Well, I just know up to this point that I've been searching for my true self, and that true essence of self-love.
Are you willing to simply look into your mirror and demonstrate and experience that? That is all there is to it. You can put it out into the future. Well, if I do this, this, and that, I will finally have earned my self-love. Or simply recognize that you choose to afford yourself that love right now. Look in the mirror, make, shall we say, the dedication, and look into the loving eyes of yourself.
Should I move on to that?
Well, there are no shoulds.
I know, there's just lots going on.
But the idea is that you are placing what you are calling your willingness to self-validate in a future time frame, rather than simply deciding right now to do that and then continuing to create that reality.
I am adding this to my reality now.
Oh, thank you.
Because I am getting in touch with many past lives, many past lives, the present life and a future life. And all I'm looking for is that identity.
Well, again, look in the mirror, access the love in your own eyes, raise that hand high and pat yourself on the back. Allow yourself to validate who you already have become. Allow yourself to unfold into who you prefer to be. Do not create distance between you and the preferred you. For as you perceive it to be out there, creating more separation and space from who you are in here, by definition in your reality, you then also create more time to move through that space. And that is what creates it seeming to be put off into the future, rather than simply deciding and living it right now, utilizing perhaps, since it exists as a convenient symbol in your reality, what you would call your physical mirror.
I know, I've been doing it.
All right.
As I think you know. And it's been an incredible experience. And I'll explain it. I've been peering literally into a mirror and peering into my left eye. And closest thing to explain this is that it's like that Michael Jackson video where faces are melting into other faces. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but I've literally seen this, and it's been an incredible experience.
That is the accessing of what you would perceive to be more of your totality.
I know. And I'm validating them as past lives. That's not so important to me. It's just the fact that I am able to see this, experience it, and to question the faces I see.
Let's get down to the bottom line. Where are you hanging up? And again, I use the slang, colloquial terminology purposely. What's the problem?
No problem. I'm blissful. I am enjoying it quite a bit.
Well, your tone has changed.
No. Well, Because expectations. Yeah.
Next interaction. Don't get ahead. You're futuring again.
But Elan, it's been incredible. It's been a beautiful experience. I've seen this in a mirror. I've seen it in another's eye.
What in your immediate recent experience has been presented to you in the form of a redundancy that you do not prefer? And if we begin to tread on toes, simply tell us and we will cease this interaction.
Commitment?
All right.
Is that what you're perceiving?
Well, more than one thing that will do as a start. The point is, how is it coming up as a seemingly repetitive, redundant symbol? How does it present itself?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
I know. I just can't quite grasp it right now.
All right.
I'll think about it.
I will trust the unfoldment of your willingness to look at these issues, but simply suggest that when indeed something of this regard seems to come up, quote unquote, again, that you ask yourself, what does it allow me to see about what I must believe that no longer serves me as a belief? And be honest. Then perhaps we will have the next installment of this interaction.
Can I ask one question about peering into the other's eye?
Well, you can ask.
And I'm peering into another's eye and seeing these faces, and then I peer into a mirror and I see the same.
Well, what is the question? What is unobvious about that? You are the reality. You are not within the reality. That is an apparency. The reality is within you. There literally is no difference between your eye and the eye of another, except when you say so.
Okay. So that was the same, pretty much the same experience.
It is beginning to acknowledge the oneness of all things, yes.
The mirror.
Nice.
Feeling.
Nice. Now you're getting it.
So
Elan is a derivative of a word from our ancient language, ili. Ili means mirror or perhaps one-to-one reflection. And Elan will translate to hologram or one that contains the whole, or all is one, one is all, whichever you wish.
So is that my strong connection to Eli? Yes.
That is one of them.
You also.
I simply have always only functioned as a mirror to you and have consistently reminded you of this.
But I feel very connected to you.
All right. Thank you.
And okay, I'll save the tape. But I also had a dream the other night of playing guitars with you.
In a sense.
In a sense.
It was a metaphor.
Yeah. You do play an instrument though.
Yes, from time to time. The bottom line is that we were in harmonious accord.
Is that what
Yes. Pun intended.
my love to you?
And to you. Shutting.
Elan,
Yes.
how does being married, having a spouse, affect, what happens in your life? If I am the creator of my life, I hear what you're saying, but when you have a husband whose actions directly affect your life.
Do you contain the definition that what you call a partnership need consist of compromising who you are? Or are you willing to now expand the definition to include the fact that you can be of service to the other? You can, in that sense, unconditionally love the other without having to withdraw your own unconditional self-love. It is a matter of definition. As you change, either your quote-unquote partner will match that change. You all contain these many levels, and you interact on the corresponding level that you are willing to vibrate as. However, should you decide your timing in doing so is different from the other person's, then many times as you change, you will transform a relationship, and many times, in that sense, cease to relate in quite the same way. But one of the other will happen. Either they will match you but not through your insistence that they do, simply by your willingness to be who you are and attract that aspect of them. Or again, they may be unwilling at that time to look at these issues, and then it will simply become apparent. But you need not compromise who you are in order to remain in a relationship if that relationship is a healthy, self-sustaining, and mutually of service relationship. 'Tis up to you. You have a notion on your planet of the idea of 50% relationships. From our perspective, that is compromising 50% of who you each are. We look at the idea of 100% relationships, which result in the whole being more than the sum total of the parts, for no one is compromised. You literally double the fun, but not if you are having or halving who you are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So your willingness to begin to function as a living example of who you choose to be, not insisting that anyone else does, for that insistence is saying you don't believe it yourself. But simply by being that way because that's who you are, will again usually attract a similar aspect from the other individual. Many times it will simply take the form of, since again you are not insisting and they are not putting up a defense, them simply seeing that person has changed. And I like the way that they have changed. They then approach you and say, what are you doing? I want in. But when you say, this is working for me, I insist that you take it, and they put up a defense, they never actually even see what this is. They only create their version of what they think it is and build up the defense against it.
When you, if you believe that you're the creator, you just decide, well, I want this to happen. But how do you know if what you just decide you want to happen is what's the best thing for you?
Well, the bottom line is that you trust that if something excites you, with integrity, by the way, the understanding that you have all the power to create anything you wish without harming yourself or someone else, that is your indication in that moment that aligning with that excitement will at least take you the next step. It may play out to actually produce the exciting thing you are excited about, and it may lay down certain steps that when taken will give you new tools, and then the excitement may shift. But the idea is the beginning place is by being willing to acknowledge who you are and understand that your excitement in and of itself is the sign that you all ask for from above, so to speak. It is the reflection, the direct vibratory representation of who you chose to be in this life. Simply, you are not taught that standardly upon your planet, and many times are talked out of your excitement and then take the path of avoiding the excitement and never have the chance to see that following that excitement and acting upon it with integrity yields a completely different set of results in your life. It is really truly a matter of trust. You trusting who you are and allowing your excitement to represent who you are in that moment from what's available. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
If not, please proceed.
No, I understand what you're saying. So if I want this thing at this moment, it either is exactly what's best for me or it will lead me to what's best for me.
Nice. And if the excitement shifts down the line, but you have gained all these tools and now you are no longer excited about that thing, you will not care a bit then. But the idea is that many times your excitement will play out directly. Now, due to the way that you create your reality and due to the idea of how you have the relationship of time in your reality, at first, when you begin to take back your power and begin to create your life consciously, the following may seem to occur. You always get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
However, at first, not always when you feel you want it. Now, when you begin to trust in the mechanism that, however, you still always get it and be relentless in maintaining the intention, and begin to manifest according to your excitement, which then replaces what you have manifested according to what everyone else said you should, then you will find that the time lag begins to decrease. And you literally will more or less get the idea pretty much when you feel you should. But at first, your willingness to maintain that intention and not allow the specifics in your reality to talk you out of it is the key to remaining aligned with it. The only time you ever actually lose the ability, so to speak, to get what you want is when you give it up as a clear intention and allow your reality to talk you out of it. Well, it has not happened, so obviously it will not happen, so I will not even maintain it as a clear intention. That's when you, so to speak, lose the idea. But if you simply say, all right, I wish this to have happened 3 years ago, but I am still just as excited about it right now. I will take the evidence that I am excited about it as the representation that it is available, and now, after maintaining it as a clear intention, reground to what is right in front of me. Your willingness to maintain that vibration as an intention and then reground to what is available and choose from those options with your excitement, act upon those choices with integrity, then leads you to this clear intention through the path of least resistance, which is, at least for the way you have laid things down, the quickest way for now. Does that make sense? Is there something else?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shedding. Nice.
You're talking about intention. I notice with myself, I don't put out clear intentions on a thing, but what I try to put out is for joy.
Well, that will do.
Okay.
But the idea is to be honest about it. Is that certain individual circumstances or particular events or relationships or people will begin to stand out as being exciting. And your willingness to validate that excitement, which is truly validating who you are, who you have chosen to be, and then to whatever degree you are able, acting upon that excitement with integrity, will very often clarify your understanding of your excitement and begin to seem to narrow it down to at least an overall category of exploration.
Yeah, because right now it seems like there's really nothing there, but it's fine.
Well, maintaining the joy in and of itself is truly enough. For what you call cause and effect are really two sides of one coin. Yes, obviously you can create the cause and then begin in that sense to experience the effect. But if you are willing to create the effect first, since it is still one coin, you then create the causes. So if the effect is joy, you will create the causes for that joy. If you maintain that idea and don't let your reality talk you out of it. And anytime that you do, you are not asking in that moment, how is this of service to me? You are in some way, shape, or form saying, poor little old me.
That was one of the things I was seeing that things have been happening, but it's only because I've been looking at my belief in deservability, and starting to really see who I am, and it's really getting amazed at who I am.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can you give me one good reason why you don't deserve everything you desire if in obtaining and experiencing all these desires, you will only be of service to yourself and only be of service to all that you come in contact with? One reason.
Why I can't? What did you ask?
Can you give me one reason why you don't deserve it all?
No.
All right.
There is no reason, and that's what I'm saying. There is no reason. I do deserve.
Now you sound like you believe that.
Yeah.
And if you simply ask yourself how a person who believes that would act in any given situation, if a situation comes along and you feel you are beginning to act not according to preference, simply pausing, stopping, and handing over that situation to the joyous preferred you and seeing what that you would do will lay down a template of action that will allow you to transform any given situation, utilizing tools you can never lose.
And welcome.
Thank you.
May I ask you a question?
You may ask.
I only picked you up probably about 45 minutes on a television show a couple of days ago after I had asked for a teacher. And
What I would like to ask you, if you don't mind, is since you seem to have a higher awareness of the human emotions, or have at least gotten past that on your side,
No, not at all.
you have.
There is no past it. And where we are is not in any way better than where you are. We simply understand the plethora of choices and choose joy, choose ecstasy, choose service and integrity. That is all.
All of you as a whole?
Yes. Our society functions in an intercooperative way, unconditionally loving every individual and every self. This allows us to identify completely as someone else and has therefore had the resultant feature in us becoming completely what you would call telepathic. For that unconditional love, willingness to identify as allows you to create the same thoughts at the same time as someone else, which is the truest definition of what you call telepathy, not that you're actually reading someone else's mind. You are of like vibration and therefore create similar thoughts at the same time.
So you are what we could be.
We are what you are if you will choose to express it within yourself.
Okay.
And the fact that you can see it in me proves to you that it is not something that you can become. It proves to you that it is one of the things you already are, or you would not understand it.
Then can I ask you what your perception is of what God is then?
Yes, it is all that is. Everything that is. And everything, for that matter, that isn't. It is absolutely all that is. At the same time, it perceives itself as a singular consciousness similar to yourself, but simultaneously, though this may seem unsettling, it also perceives itself as the separate individual presentations within your reality. So you are all that is. So am I. So are all of you. There is simply no outside.
But do you believe in right and wrong?
We understand the notions that you would call positive, which is integrative, which is understanding the oneness of all things and acting that way. And we understand behavior and choices that are limiting or separative, which do not, in that sense, acknowledge the oneness of all things, feel like you exist within a reality rather than the reality is within you, and feel that you must struggle, strive, and fight to maintain your place within that reality. So we understand the sentiment, but refrain from using the terminology right and wrong, for that is quite arbitrary. In your society, things which are positive are sometimes labeled by some as right. Things which are negative are labeled by some as right, vice versa. It becomes quite an arbitrary judgment call to say right and wrong, but we recognize positive and negative, integrative and separative.
And are you able to tune in to people individually? Like if anybody else in this room asked you a question, if you could you tune into something that perhaps happened to somebody as a child, if they wanted clarification on it?
Many times. However, we will generally allow you to represent yourself verbally because that is the choice of communication upon your planet. We honor that. We allow your words to speak for what they are, even if we absolutely know that they are not representative of what you are thinking and feeling. This allows you to have sovereignty. This allows you to be respected for who you choose to be.
So can I ask you something?
You can ask.
I had a dream once, but it wasn't a dream, where I was on a table in my room and I was about 10 and I saw beings around me.
Describe.
White jackets, individual, maybe 7 to 8, looking down at me, no fear, but my hands were touching the bed and I was opening my eyes and I saw my room and I knew where I was and I just always felt like I was just being looked at or examined, always. And you know, at that time, nobody believed in all this other stuff on other planets, and since it always made me feel weird, but I no longer think it's weird. I just really believe it's valid. And can you validate that, or is it something that was just imagination?
Well, in a sense, you may understand that the co-created reality may vibrate slightly out of phase with what you call your solid physical reality, but as an experience and a discrete happening, yes, we can validate it.
So it really happened?
Oh, yes. The impact that you have allowed it to have upon you shows that it did.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise, you would simply have forgotten about it. No big deal.
I know.
So therefore,
Weird.
the real question, perhaps every other question was the fake question, I don't know, is do you validate it? For no matter what I say, you will either match it or not anyway. And that will be the ultimate assignment of definition by you, which will give the effect that you will partake of. Do you validate it?
I do
But what?
internally. It was doubt, and then it was certainty under that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Ice.
It never went away. So I was always looking or listening if someone else has had this experience.
All right.
And when I saw it was, I thought maybe I wasn't crazy, you know?
Well, that is quite arbitrary, but that is up to you. How does this serve you exactly the way it is?
It has never allowed me to believe in anything but things more than I see or hear or feel. I mean, I've just always been aware that there's something more that I'm just not aware of. Do you know what I'm saying?
What does and what will accessing that additional aspect of yourself allow you to do that you do not allow yourself to do right now?
It will unfold what my true self is, and I'd stop running away from it.
What are you running from? And again, remembering that you are it all, where are you running to?
Every time I start to go on the path and I feel the pieces fall, something inside me clicks off and I stop. And it's a pattern that goes years and years.
Ah, a pattern. How redundant. What must you believe to be recreating this pattern? What does this pattern tell you in no uncertain terms about what you must believe?
That what I'm believing is detrimental to me.
But what is the belief itself?
That what I'm feeling is not important enough to follow.
Ah. Now, how does that belief serve you?
It keeps me stuck.
Well, that is not how it serves you.
Oh, it doesn't serve me at all.
Oh, all right. Do you acknowledge that you believe that?
Yeah.
State that belief once more.
I believe that what I believe is not serving me.
State the belief that is not serving you.
My emotions are there, but I'm hitting a blank with words.
All right, take your time. You create it all anyway. State the belief that you have now acknowledged, which you feel no longer serves you. Then we can discuss how to transform it.
Oh, I believe that you should be considerate of other people's feelings, like your parents or your daughters or people you love, and you kind of have to put yourself on hold to do what they kind of need. You know what I'm saying?
How do you then act having that belief?
You don't act.
You hesitate. You do not do the things that are representative of who you are.
I don't do anything. Right?
You yes people when you really feel no.
Yeah.
How is this of service to them? For when you do that, rather than allowing them to converse with you and have the gift of who you are, you allow them to have an elaborate conversation with themselves.
Yeah.
What do you then have to offer in the situation? Do you wish to offer something to them?
Yes, but I just keep quiet.
All right. Do you feel that you have something to offer?
Yes, I always have.
All right. Do you feel that you can offer that gift to someone without insisting in any way that they take it?
If I could stop being afraid of offering.
Well, you can. Why are you afraid to offer? Is it the ridicule?
Possibly.
All right. Do you understand that ridicule rendered from someone else and ridicule accepted by you are two completely different things? And you do not get the effect of being ridiculed till you accept it, no matter what anyone else says.
Even when it's people who love you?
Yes, particularly with ridicule.
But people who love you, if they ridicule you, they should know better, right?
All you can be responsible for is you. All you can be responsible for is whether or not you are willing to perpetuate that ridicule to someone else, or whether in seeing how that allows you to feel, that you use that Allow it to be of service to you by not ridiculing anyone else. You can validate what they are expressing, but not condone it. Condoning it is doing the same thing. Validating it is saying, all right, they're that way. I am not that way, and I refuse to act that way.
That wouldn't be being disloyal?
What is your definition of loyalty? Is it
Acting within...
selling yourself short?
Yeah.
Is that your definition of loyalty?
If it meant giving someone else what they needed.
Allow me to ask you a question that we have asked before. If one of these relatives told you to kill yourself, would you do it?
No.
What do you think you are doing? Get the point?
Blatantly.
All right. Simply now, you need not lament about what you have done. You can, obviously, but that is not using it as a service. That is not gleaning how it serves you. The recognition of how you feel, the recognition of what you believe is your power. When you are willing to acknowledge it as you have just done, and again, see how you are acting because of it, you can grab the bull, so to speak, by the horns. You can begin to write down or state or however you wish to express it, the things you now wish to believe, the beliefs that will replace these unpreferred beliefs, and begin to use your imagination to furnish the actions, to furnish yourself with the actions that one would perform with the preferred belief, and begin to look at how you're acting and begin to look at how you would prefer to act. When you are willing to take the leap, perhaps you can say, of faith, and in a quote-unquote redundant situation, now act the new way with unconditional love, from the perspective that you still love them, that your loyalty is embodied in the fact that you unconditionally love them and will love them no matter what, you will begin to get a different effect from the quote-unquote seemingly same exact circumstances. But the loyalty lies in your willingness to unconditionally love. Who is more loyal, according to your definition? One who says, if you do exactly what I say, I will love you. If you don't, you stink, you're out. Is that loyalty? Is, no matter what you do, even if I completely think it stinks, I will still love you. Is that loyalty?
Yes.
Now you can begin to embody and be a living example of your new definition of loyalty, thereby at least allowing them to see that there is an alternative, rather than coughing back what they already believe, which only affirms what they believe, which is not who you are and is not what you prefer. Therefore, again, you allow them to converse with themselves and remove the gifts that you have to offer from the process.
Thank you.
Is that of assistance?
That came immensely.
Is there somewhere that you still hang up again, according to this?
Yeah.
Where?
I guess it's that child/woman line having to deal with relationship to parents.
Well, do understand. You can view it from the perspective of people dealing with people, and have the child within you simply represent your willingness to maintain aspects of that child. Fascination, seeing things as anew, excitement. But it need not then carry the connotation of servitude, of squelching who you are. Again, if your understanding of loyalty is one who is always willing to unconditionally love another, and you begin to embody that, you will be as one person interacting with another person, treating them as an equal. You are no longer the baby. You are now the equal, the person. You have created the relationship for a reason. You have both chosen it to exchange certain ideas, to exchange certain lessons, and to begin to allow a co-created exploration. You may wish now to look at doing your part, doing what you chose and created yourself in this scenario to be. Therefore, it is no longer they, the parent, the teacher, you, the child, the learner, exclusively. For it was never that way to begin with. You're always both teacher and learner. Whether or not they are willing to acknowledge that, your understanding of that will allow you to begin to function as a teacher. Still being willing to learn, still being willing to glean, but again, not at the cost of who you are, for that is not of service to them. And allowing them to create the scenario whereby you create and participate in a form of psychic suicide simply is not necessarily a true embodiment of what you would call loyalty. For loyalty implies loyalty across the board. And that means loyalty to self. Each time you squelch who you are not being loyal to either of you. All right.
Okay.
We will speak again. If there is something which moves you, please ask.
Thank you.
But allow this to sink in. There need not be a separation between the having of these ideas and the embodying of them. Well, I feel, I understand this, but I don't feel it. You need not make all these separations. In simply emotionally identifying with what I am saying, you are being the vibration of what I am saying. You contain it and therefore can never lose it and therefore can choose to express it whenever you wish. All right. Welcome to conscious creatorhood. And thank you. Shedding.
Elan,
Ace.
greetings.
Greetings.
Could you tell us what changes in transportation are likely to occur in the next 10 to 20 years on this planet, both water, land, and in the air, and also as we look out to explore outer space? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Well, to some degree, you know that this is not one of our particular, shall we say, approaches, but however, there are some interesting things on what you call your horizon. First of all, you will begin to see the emergence of what you call, all right, electric cars. That will, in a sense, begin to unfold and has already been put firmly into place, though the awareness of it will increase tenfold, 100-fold over the next few months. That is one of the things that will figure. You will begin to see the instillment of electromagnetic technology rather than simply mechanical, most likely in the form of what you call trains, magnetic levitation trains, known as maglev. So you will begin to see trains which ride on a cushion of electromagnetism and propel themselves much in the same manner, shifting polarity and allowing for, in the particular relationship of magnetic fields, for the propulsion on, again, a cushion of electromagnetic energy. You will also begin to find more of the idea in what you call boat technology of different variations of what you refer to as hovercraft. Perhaps you can say down the line, you will begin to see modifications in what you call your roadway and highway systems to begin to include lanes that will be specifically for the use of automobiles, which in a sense will contain a computer, which will allow you to program where you wish to go, and then will follow along certain lines, a particular route with no driver, and maintain the proper distance between car ahead, car back. There is a high degree of likelihood behind this beginning to unfold. In terms of, again, electromagnetic technology, this will also begin to develop and finally be utilized in what you call aircraft, though this we will not discuss. Is that what you are asking?
Fine. How about our exploring outer space?
In the near future, there is, shall we say, a high degree of likelihood in similar technology as you are now employing, perhaps with different substances, different booster engines, different types of thrust arrangements. But eventually you will find a movement away from this more, again, mechanical style of propulsion into different varying degrees of electromagnetic propulsion, partially from information that has been shared through, shall we say, extraterrestrial means, but also through individuals upon your planet who are working and playing with many of these ideas as we speak.
When might we begin to see some teleportation actually take place on this planet as a means of transportation?
It has not yet been determined. Individuals will begin to do this right away. However, the masses will not be aware of this, and this will be through consciousness, not technological means. I assume you mean technological means.
In Cairo, in my Egypt trip, I met a woman who lives in Perth, Australia.
We have discussed this.
And I would sure like to just appear there once in a while.
Well, what a surprise. You may, in that sense, already do so in what you sometimes call the astral state, but that is up to you.
Otherwise, I have to resort to Uncle Sam's mail or somebody's mail.
All right.
Or the telephone, which I cannot afford.
Well, if you say so.
Or an airplane.
All right.
Well.
Perhaps the mail would be the path of least resistance for now.
I'll play around with that. Thank you very much. Okay.
At this timing, we will pause for a short break of 10 to 15 minutes of your counting and resume contact at that timing. All right, I'll say, continue shedding. Ice.
Whatever you say about intention and wanting something with clear definitions and all that, I'm trying to connect that with what's the difference between obsession and wanting something?
Well, in general, wanting something will simply be the granting of validity to your desire and excitement, and what you call obsession will generally come from the perspective of feeling that something is truly unobtainable and continuing to pursue it with, again, the underlying belief that it is unobtainable. Does that make sense?
Yes, and if I say this, maybe it will make more sense.
All right.
I'm talking about heartbreaks. I know a lot of people who have gone through really terrible heartbreaks, and they still want that person. So instead of wanting that particular person, would it help to just want a right mate?
The idea is that they do not truly, in the truest sense of the word, want that person. They want a form of relationship within themselves that they do not acknowledge within themselves. In order to, in that sense, completely have a 100% relationship, one must first have a 100% relationship with oneself. Already be willing to feel complete with oneself. For again, you attract the reality you are the vibration of. And if you feel complete, you will attract a reflection of that completeness in no uncertain terms. If you attract a relationship from a feeling of incompleteness, as though someone else could actually complete you, then you may feel in that sense that type of obsession when it is lost, for you are ascribing to an external symbol your power. You are ascribing to an external symbol aspects of the relationship with yourself that you do not believe you contain and therefore need get it somewhere or someone else. So when you are willing to acknowledge your 100% completeness and relationship and unconditional love of yourself, what you will attract will be a far different, many times opposite symbol to represent that new vibration.
What I'm trying to figure out is, as I said, I know a lot of people who have gone through this, and how do I tell them, what do I say to them, and how do I connect the theory of intention and excitement, following your excitement and having this clear intention in your mind, and when they see that it doesn't happen, what's the missing piece?
The first missing piece, as you say, would be to provide a clear living example of that concept in yourself. For that is truly all you can actually do. You cannot, again, convince them. You cannot instill the idea within them. You can embody that idea as an example so the individual can at least see that it is possible. Here is a living example. I had never seen this before, but all I need is to see one example and I know it's at least possible. But again, where perhaps their attention would be most constructively pointed is to their feelings of inner incompleteness and therefore not granting themselves complete unconditional love. Well, if I'm complete, I will love myself. If not, I will not. That is conditional self-love. If you will simply unconditionally love yourself for whoever and whatever you are, you will allow yourself to see where you feel complete. You will acknowledge that and then begin to choose the more complete belief system and the more complete actions and therefore get a more complete effect. But it has to do with unconditional self-love in terms of what you would perhaps share with them, but more again, directly, concretely, by being a living example to prove that it is possible.
So, instead of saying follow your excitement, is it conditional? Is it right to say don't just follow your excitement? First, make sure that it's the right kind of excitement, right for you.
Well, again, when you're saying excitement with integrity, this automatically takes form. Excitement without integrity may or may not be quote unquote positive for you. However, excitement with integrity can only be positive to you and only be positive to everyone else. For integrity is, once again, the recognition of the complete integration of everything, the fact that it is all one thing, and the fact that if everything is a part of you, you need not harm any part of it or of yourself in order to get what you wish. That is the degree of your great power as a creator. You have enough power to create whatever it is you wish without harming yourself or someone else. And if no one is harmed and service is rendered to all, then obviously there is nothing extra or extraneous about that expression.
You indirectly answered the question. The missing piece is the integrity. That was
Nice.
everybody doesn't understand, and they are in pain themselves and they cause pain for the other person. Integrity is the.
But once you enter the scene, unwilling to cause pain and unwilling to take on pain, then you show an alternative. That is the missing piece, the living example. Not an insistence, which again implies you do not believe it yourself, and in convincing someone else or truly trying to convince yourself, but in your willingness to simply say, I am an expression of the thing that you seek. Look at my life. Look how it works. This is an example. And if you are interested in what you see and feel that you like this, then you can explain to them how you came about it. And again, share the notion of unconditional self-love. If you feel that you have, quote unquote, screwed up according to your own standards, you can still love yourself and begin to look at creating the reality that you prefer rather than withdrawing that love, reinserting it, withdrawing it and reinserting it, which in a sense prolongs the process. Unconditional self-love. That is the tone, the feeling of God or all that is. And because God or all that is unconditionally self-loving and unconditionally loving to all, it is not a difficult vibration to tap into, for you are always unconditionally loved by all that is. And because that is eternal, it means in any given moment, simply by even remembering it for a split second, you can feel that. And when you tap into that feeling, you can mimic it. You can embody that feeling. You can treat yourself with the same respect.
I guess I should have told you at the beginning that I virtually meet a lot of people, many times strangers, so where somehow the conversation starts, and many people are going through this pain and they just don't know how to get out of it. And if they are totally strangers, I cannot start lecturing them or talking about
Yes, but you can again share the simple notion that you do attract what you are the vibration of. If you feel incomplete, no matter what you attract, it will only again redundantly deliver to you the message that you are wishing to receive, which is that you feel incomplete. So if you are willing to acknowledge that you feel incomplete, you can begin to look at the fact that you are already complete. But if you deny that you feel that and go on feeling and believing it, you take it out of your grasp. So you can again share that you always attract what you are the vibration of, and you either feel complete and will attract that, or feel incomplete and will remind yourself of that.
Thank you.
And to you. Shedding. Female, then male.
Greetings, Elan.
Greetings.
I have a sharing, I guess, based on. In fact, I think I feel that I've gotten a message in the last week. When we last spoke, we discussed the job that I'm now in, where there's a guy that I had a relationship with in the past,
Nice.
and his reemergence on a day-to-day basis on the scene in my life. I think discussing that with you helped me to release a lot of the residual symbolism in that circumstance,
And also allowed him to be who he is, be the vibration of who he is, attract the corresponding reflection of that vibration, and you simply observing that you are no longer in this particular specific incident, that vibration.
yeah, and I had a couple of real powerful illustrations of that during the week. The first one was that he was not at work. He was out sick for the entire week, so I didn't see him at all. So as a symbol, he really left the scene in a very graphic way. And one of the things that allowed me to do was to sit at his desk and use his computer all day, since I don't have one of my own. And one of those days, the phone rang, and there was a woman on the other end asking for him. And when I said he wasn't there, she said, "Well, this is his fiance. I'll call him later." And I found it kind of amusing and just a real
Reflection of who you no longer prefer to be.
exactly.
Therefore, nothing's missing, everything's in the correct place.
Yep.
Well, thank you. No, thank you.
Me.
Is that all?
On that subject, yeah, if I may, I just wanted to share with the lady who spoke earlier that I too had a difficult relationship for quite a long time with my parents, and I was always trying to be a good girl. And but I've gotten to a place where I can view them more as equals, and they view me more as an equal, and it has really radically changed the nature of our relationships. And it's much more satisfactory now.
You mean to tell me that this stuff works?
Yeah, it really does.
Well, what a marvel. Do understand, however, that what this individual is displaying is the simple fact that it is that simple. You can make it as complex as you wish, but fundamentally it is that simple. The willingness to simply assume that role has an effect. And because it is who you are, that reflected effect is more representative of who you choose to be. In general, the outcome is not as one expects anyway. What has that now allowed you to continue to do?
Well, it's validated what I've been doing, and just shows me that it does work, and that it gives it strengthens my intention to continue doing.
May I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Do you feel more or less loyal to them?
More.
In what way?
Because I can be myself, and it may not be sometimes what I'm expressing to them may not be what they believe, but it's okay for me to say it. And without the expectation that just because I say it, then they have to do it. It's not, that's not a requirement.
And it isn't, I'm right and you're wrong.
Right.
It's here's another point of view. This enriches your reality. You don't have to choose it.
Mm-hmm. And I've also found that the more that I'm willing to share of myself as an equal, the more they are opening up and sharing as an equal to me, and
thereby treating you as more of an equal than you ever expected possible.
yeah, and it's very interesting because I'm learning things about them that I never knew as a child growing up, and that I never would have had an opportunity to learn had I stayed in that more of a parent-child relationship with them. And it's really a very satisfying thing for me.
Now, not at the loss of the child within, however.
Right.
Simply at the, perhaps you can say, transformation of the subservient aspect of the child.
Mm-hmm.
No longer needing to follow, but now living and being and sharing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Could not have said it better myself. Over there, male.
Good evening, Elan.
Greetings.
How are you this evening?
All right. Perfect. And yourself?
I am excellent.
Sharing a bit earlier this evening. Oh.
The question I have is on...
By the way, I would have asked had you not, in that sense, participated anyway. Do proceed.
Yeah.
All right. Getting used to me. All right.
The question that I have is a follow-up on something that you said earlier, and it's related to an earlier question that was asked in the second. And you may have answered it, but I'd like some clarification on it. You talked about you always get what you want, but then you said sometimes you have to persist and keep going after it.
Well, at first, maybe not when you believe that you think that is the only time.
Well, that's...
It begins to enter into the realm and aspect of your trust in timing for the time being.
Because that was the question, is what makes, if sometimes you desire something and it simply manifests for you at that time, and other times you have to persist, is there some missing ingredient?
Hey.
Is it a matter of passion or something else?
Well, it may simply be a lack of knowledge or the lack of one minute particular fact that when you know will assist you in appreciating what you are asking for all the more.
So it's not necessarily
the passion. It may simply be the knowledge resources that allow you, again, full appreciation, full experience of the thing you say you prefer. Again, perhaps not taking into consideration things which do not yet exist. You may think, well, this is what I really wish to experience. And it may really be that down the line, what you will experience is so much grander than that, but you simply do not have the vision to see it, for certain things are physically in a physical universe, not in place yet. So the trusting that if this is not forthcoming now means that when it is occurring, it will be that much more splendorous and grand than I even pictured, can be used in that sense to bolster your trust in the positive.
But the idea is still to move, to act as if you've already...
Well, to maintain it as a clear intention. And if it is not immediately actable upon, putting it aside so that you can now see what is immediately actable upon. Regrounding into the moment, but maintaining that vibration, maintaining that alignment, maintaining that choice. Even though what's in the moment seems to have nothing to do with that choice, the fact that it is in the moment and the fact that one thing stands out as more exciting is directly related to that choice, even if there is no seeming relationship. When you finally, quote unquote, get there, you will see exactly why this exciting thing in this moment was absolutely necessary to get to that moment and actually allowed you to get there the fastest way. It is when you doubt or, again, trust in the opposite of this mechanism that you, again, create more space and more time in which to then traverse it.
My perception has been, and I think this is just a poor way of expressing it, that in some cases it's you need to move or you need to persist in order to, as if demonstrating for other people, and I understand that you're saying that it's all within us. Maybe it's to demonstrate to yourself that you really desire it.
Well,
I'm not putting it in the words.
that is one way to look at it. But that is, in a sense, a rationalization. You know, as a responsible individual in any given moment, if you desire something or not. And you need not, in trusting the timing, ascribe that meaning, though you can. That sometimes will lengthen the process more than necessary. If you, in a given moment, have a desire, have a passion, have an excitement, in that moment, it is completely valid. It is a reality unto itself.
I think your explanation of the timing may not be right. Answers the other question. Why we don't always experience it.
Well, again, it is not the timing that will enable you to maximally appreciate the thing, even though you think it is. And in allowing it to unfold, you get to have the joy of the discovery of why it will be that much more magnificent. And you can get excited about it rather than allow it to stump or block you by simply understanding, I have this clear intention. It is not immediately forthcoming, even though I feel I wish it was. Therefore, boy, is this going to be exciting.
Okay.
And that is a valid approach as well. Turning it around. Is that all?
That's all for now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Shutting.
Hi.
Ace.
Hi.
Greetings.
Greetings to you. I have a topic that I'd like to talk about.
All right. Do speak up so that the gift that you have to share is heard by all.
Transition. When one is in a transition, like a metamorphosis between going from one part of their life to another, and they're transforming over, like giving up old and going to the new. Why is it painful for some people and not painful for others?
Well, in general, the pain arises from not trusting in where you are and assuming that you, quote unquote, should be somewhere else or should have by now have done this, and that. Understand again, when you doubt who you are, that doubt is not in any way a lack of trust and is a complete trust in the thing you say you don't prefer. So seeing where you place that trust, again, is acknowledging what you believe and then allows you to begin to change it. But when you judge that things in your reality are extraneous, then in general, you will create unhappiness around that idea. When you understand that if anything is in your life, by definition, it must belong, and you can begin to look at how it serves you, you begin to use these creations rather than allow them to seem extraneous. And as you transform something negative and allow it to be of service to you, there is a great joy within that discovery. That joy then again reinforces, bolsters your positive trust and allows you to move through or transform in a metamorphic style in ecstasy, in joy. It is when you do not trust who you are, do not trust your timing, and therefore trust in who you are not, or trust that there is such a thing as bad timing, that you then create the negative emotions around this. Does this make sense?
So you can transform backwards as well as forwards.
Well, in a sense, you never truly go backward, for you are always a new person with a new set of knowledge. And even if you perform the same actions after having already done so, you are a new definition. What do you mean in this regard?
Like somebody who was born, say, rich, okay, and they have everything given to them. That doesn't seem to be enough. And they just want more. And instead of seeing the positive side of it, they're just continuously negative. I hope I'm not blaming anybody here.
Understood.
Just giving an example.
Well, the idea in that particular example is that the individual did not feel complete to begin with, did not have unconditional self-love and validation to begin with, and ascribed that only could completeness be obtained from an incomplete standpoint with the acquisition of external things, which again does not recognize that everything is a part of you. So therefore, rather than feeling complete, there is this idea that one could become complete if they had this, this, and that. This is generally a mindset that you are speaking of, rather than a result of having or not having the quote-unquote abundance itself. Do proceed.
I will give my own example.
All right.
I have this great intuition that I should move to New Jersey. I've been having it for the past few years.
Why are you still here?
Well, I guess because I've given myself excuses and reasons. But now it's like all of a sudden I was confronted with this big, huge fear that it was like, at first I didn't know what it was and it was overwhelming. I was getting insomnia, not sleeping, and crying a lot. But then all of a sudden I realized that it was my own fear. And I was afraid of leaving people here. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm already separated from these people anyway. So why am I afraid? And this was the transition, going from that fear and then going to New Jersey and just taking that chance. To me, that is a big transition.
What was, in your estimation, the worst case scenario?
That I was going to end up alone.
And what's in that sense?
I'm going there alone.
What is the underlying implication there?
Oh, God. I don't know.
That you, in and of yourself alone, are not complete.
I guess not as complete as I thought it was.
Well, that's all right. You cannot change it till you acknowledge that you still have these feelings. This is what we are discussing.
I had gone through a similar transition when I was divorcing my husband. And I felt it wonderful that I was going to be on my own. Now, all of a sudden, there's a reason, a partial reason why I'm going, because of another man. More than anything, that I'm going to be involved in another relationship, that I had to give up that part of myself that I had grown to love.
Are you the same person that attracted the first relationship?
No.
Are there similarities in this new relationship and the first one?
No.
All right. Where then do you extrapolate that it could wind up that way, being that this relationship would wind up being the relationship for the old you?
Yeah, I am afraid of reverting back to my old self.
Well, that is, again, not truly possible. For now that you know who you are, now that you have had these discussions both externally but also internally, even if you were to, quote unquote, revert to old behavior, you are doing so with new knowledge, and therefore are not the same person you were, because who you were did that without the knowledge. Does that make sense? Therefore, you can only ever be a reflection of the quote-unquote new you. And you literally recreate yourself, usually very similarly to the quote-unquote preceding moment, but in each and every given moment. So you are constantly transforming, constantly expanding, constantly growing. You did, quote-unquote, back then, attract a reflection of who you are. And in the feelings of incompleteness, had reflected back to you so that you could not hide in a redundant, repetitive fashion that you did feel incomplete. Now, you have transformed many of the aspects within yourself and are once again looking to the degree to which you are still willing, to some degree, to still feel incomplete. The idea is, if you were to wind up, quote unquote, alone, oh joy.
Like ecstasy, because it's so simple to be alone. I mean, it's so simple because then you don't have to take that chance of losing yourself.
So let me get this straight. Your worst case scenario is no big deal.
Bingo.
Have a good trip.
Thank you.
But also, again, I would suggest that looking for the reasons that you wish to move? Is it because you are truly attracted to the energy of the area, or is it because some expression of the minute remaining feeling that you are incomplete would be fulfilled by someone else? I am asking this in a rhetorical fashion. You need not answer it now. Simply look at the issues and be willing to be honest with who you are. If you are truly attracted to the energy of the area, it is not the one extraneous creation in all reality. That is a representation of who you are, if that is your true attraction. If again there is an underlying notion of incompleteness that will be fulfilled by moving in with another particular individual, then that may not necessarily represent your truest excitement, and may be excitement without full integrity. For integrity is the knowledge that you are already complete, an integrated being.
I do plan on moving there and not living with this person, but living alone. I've been attracted to New Jersey for the past couple of years. He just happened to be from there, and I think the two go together. Like you talked about synchronicity. I get signs of New Jersey and this person's name over and over and over, so I see it as a sign.
All right. Simply allowing everything to be clear and above board.
Right.
But understand again, I have said what's the worst that can happen. You have said end up alone, and now redefine that ending up alone would be just fine also.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you. Is there something else?
No.
Are you sure?
I don't know right now.
If something comes up, do share again.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
And I thank you as well. My unconditional love to you. Sharing. Ace.
May I get some clarification on using the mirror as a tool, let's say?
We'll see. Little joke.
Little joke.
Very little.
So, in my experiences of seeing many faces and some other things I like to ask about real quick, once again, I think maybe you told me before, but what is this that I'm looking at, and how can I use that?
You are looking at your multidimensional self and beginning to create less of a separation between all these faces and presentations of yourself within the totality of who you are. Simply, again, it is to some degree beginning to expand your senses to begin to include ideas which you used to believe to be external.
So that includes, I saw one face of alien nature.
Well, again, it is all one thing.
Yeah. Well,
from one perspective, we are separate individuals with our own consciousness and each living and expanding in our own way. From another perspective, we are all one thing. Therefore, it is all a matter of what's your perspective.
And then it included seeing my eye and then having the surrounding go black and just a star-filled galaxy. Like the universe with only my eye left.
What you are perceiving is the infinite potential within you, yes. The void, in a sense, that relates to every possible outcome being equally accessible. The complete center of your being means you are now equidistant to every possibility and therefore have equal access to all possibilities. How exciting.
Yeah. I feel that way. I'm acting that way. Everything seems okay right now. I mean, I know that I'm human. I'm a creature of limitations, but I feel that
you are a master of limitation. All of you are. That is part of the exploration of this particular style of consciousness.
Yes.
Simply decide what excites you, and from the center of the quote-unquote void, things will begin to seem closer. You will begin to attract a reflection of the things that are representative now, not of randomness, not of what everyone says you should do, but of who you choose to be.
Well, that's what's happening. Where have you been? No, that's what's happening.
Right here, right now.
I know. Thank you. I feel very powerful. I feel empowered in many aspects.
Well, you're
I'm also-
beginning to sound that way.
Well, I'm also too. I'm doing what excites me. I'm taking some steps in that direction. Once again, I still have to. What you spoke of before about what's holding me up. What am I hung up on? And
Well, I am simply waiting for a reply.
that's okay. I don't have anything right now. And when it does come up, I'm able to apply these, these tools that we speak of here.
Then nothing stands in your way.
That's right.
Absolutely nothing. And nothing ever now can.
Right. So I get to this next thing of I'm staying grounded, yet I feel like a champ.
Oh. And how do you wish to express this clear communication?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, I'm not clear on that yet. I don't think I'm.
Well, do not dismiss your excitement in the process. Begin to view, begin to evaluate how you are excited to express it. And understand channeling is simply anything that you do, that you love to do, and you do without any hesitation, without any doubt.
Well, I know that I will channel what excites me, which is the visual arts.
When will you do so?
I'm doing that now.
All right.
I'm in the process, literally. But I also feel a lot of energy coming through me that feels like I am actually channeling something else.
In a sense, you are.
I mimic you a lot.
All right.
Which I hear, when I'm alone, it's enjoyable. It comes freely.
There is a direct communication taking place. You are simply willing to validate it. The question is, how does it become applicable? What can you, again, from a grounded perspective, do with it?
I get answers and I act on them.
All right. Excellent.
And that's it.
Is that enough?
I guess so.
Why do you not know so?
I guess I still feel questionable.
About?
I want more.
All right. More of what?
I want more. I'm reaching for that much more evidence that you are real.
Why? Why is it important? Were you to find?
It excites me.
Question. Hypothetical. Were you to find tomorrow that the channel was making this all up?
No.
What would be the effect upon you?
That's a good question.
Well, thank you.
I would, I still believe all that exists and that.
Then what is the difference? If the information works for you, use it. If it doesn't, don't. Perfect rule of thumb. You do it anyway, no matter what methodology that you choose to attract. The point is, if something shifts and no longer works for you, something else will come along. It always has. And you need not invalidate something that you have grown from. It has allowed you to get where you are right here, right now. So you can simply be appreciative of what has allowed you to get where you are and be mindful of what now attracts you as a symbol, what works for you right now. Now, do you still feel the pressing need to validate my existence?
No.
All right. Is that true?
I'm banging around, but I trust and I know this, that this is part of the process.
Now, by the way, the channel is not making this all up. But that is not really my particular purpose to convince you of that. I know I exist, and that's all that matters to me. In fact, perhaps you are all a figment of my imagination. I, however, choose to trust that you are there. I do not ask in return that you trust that I am here.
You definitely are part of my reality.
Well, all right. Then what is the difference? If the effect is there.
What a dream.
Yes, it always is.
Yeah.
But do you understand the fundamental
Yes.
point being made?
Yes, I do.
Therefore, now where are you hanging up?
I'm not.
Oh, thank you. Happy trails.
I gave you so much authority earlier. You know, I think that's something, you know, parental.
Well, what is occurring is you are taking back that authority.
Yeah.
And I thank you.
Yes.
I had no use for it anyway.
Right.
I have all the power I need as well, and simply do not need yours, but thank you for offering.
I just let's finish. I just want to ask that you will continue to assist me in any channeling, if you will, that I might be doing. I'm not sure.
Absolutely, but I will continue to allow you free reign of how you interpret it and free reign of what you choose to do about it. All I can simply do is provide reflections. The rest is up to you. And it will not be one of my particular imperative items on my agenda to convince you that I am who I say I am. It simply is not important.
I wholly believe in you. I know that.
Well, thank you.
Banging around the idea that you don't is interesting.
All right. Banging around, all right.
Thank you for this dream.
Oh, thank you for the co-creation. For if one single individual were not present in your reality, if one particular individual were not present in this room this evening of your time, it simply would not be the same interaction. Therefore, the whole is truly, again, more than the sum total of the parts, but also part and parcel of the sum total of the parts. So thank you for your participation and your willingness to begin to stand up straight, stand up tall, and choose to create the reality that you prefer. For that is what places you of a vibration to allow me, since I also attract the reality that I am a similar vibration of, to communicate with you in that intimate way. Were you not so oriented, you would not hear, colloquially speaking, a word I am saying. So thank you. That is what will determine the continuation and the clarity of your communication from me. The more you embody what I say, and I am not insisting that you do or saying that you should, simply mentioning that the more you embody what I am saying, the more you will enable access to me. Therefore, able to make sense out of what I am saying. So thank you. Shutting. Ice.
I haven't really talked to you before. Thank you for your help before.
By the way,
Okay.
thank you for your help. And also understand that though you may, in that sense that we are speaking again, to me it is always the first time.
Oh. Then I can ask you a question.
Absolutely.
When you first meet somebody and you feel a dislike, is that an intuitive thing based upon that you're receiving from that person, or is it a reflection of yourself somehow that you're disliking in yourself, or a combination of both?
Can be either, can be both. It will simply depend.
Okay. And is there such a thing as destiny then?
Well, in one sense of the word, everything already exists. On the other hand, and again, I understand sometimes these 2 points seem incongruous, but within all that is, both are true. On the other hand, you are always growing and expanding and discovering anew. So, as again unsettling as that may seem, it is not either but both. You may understand that from this particular given moment, or any now moment, there is an infinite number of probable futures that you can, in that sense, partake of. It is not etched, as you say, in stone.
So something's not like already laid out from the time you're born, and if you make the right decisions, you'll get to where you want.
Well, in a sense, from the perspective that you are now creating, it is not all laid out now.
Okay.
From an overall perspective, in some way, it may be. But again, it is both, not just one or the other.
Is there, I have a question about children, if I may. I have a little 3.5-year-old, and in today's society, parents are made very conscious of whether what they're giving to the child is either helping them or making them, quote, spoiled or whatever. And if you give a child what they want all the time, are you really hurting them by doing that?
If you do so with your excitement and integrity and are teaching the child the same idea about excitement and integrity, you cannot get the effect you are speaking of, called spoiling. It is simply acknowledgement and sharing and fulfillment of the agreement.
Meaning if I'm uncomfortable with it, it's okay to say no.
Nice.
Okay.
You can only do or not do what is either in or out of your own integrity. But if you perceive that their request is coming from out of their integrity or them being out of integrity, you can also point this out to them as well in a loving way. But by fulfilling and enabling one to fulfill their own excitement and allowing them in the process to be who they are, you can in no way, in any sense of the word, spoil them.
I thought, I wasn't sure.
The integrity is what perhaps is the factor you may wish to look at from both ends. If you consistently, out of your integrity, provide something that they are excited about out of their integrity, then yes, the effect that you are speaking of will be prevalent.
I have one more question. If nobody else does, I can wait.
All right. What do you wish to ask?
On the tape that I saw of you a couple of days ago, you spoke about a pact that humans make at the time of our emergence, so to speak, and that sometimes we forget what the agreement is. And I wondered, how does one go about remembering the agreement?
The agreement is simply obvious when it needs to be. There is no searching that need be done. And it can come in the subtle form, rather than a safe dropping on your head, so to speak, of a preference, of a desire, or of an unexpected new excitement.
So, like when that lady who's thinking about Jersey and stuff felt that she sees signs, and I always feel like I see signs, is there actually like an outside or an inside or something friend actually helping to guide you?
Well, there can be individuals who choose to function in this way, but they are only peripheral in that you ultimately have the decision-making and ability to respond or responsibility to do something about it.
Right, but are you actually are you actually being helped to make a decision? Like
Well,
constantly being
simply
slapped?
more options are provided, which then give you more of your ability to choose.
Okay.
Ultimately, within your own integrity, you are the only one who always knows what's best for you.
So you should never really rely on either a person in the physical form or a entity in the non-physical form to really await something from either person to make a decision.
It depends what you mean by rely. Allowing them to be of assistance, fine. Giving your power away will not yield the result that you are seeking.
And sometimes you can do that by waiting.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell me why the human mind makes so much complication of emotions?
Perhaps that would be one of my questions for you. But the idea is that there is an assignment of definition that it is too complicated. Because emotions are always directly a response to a belief, you can always simplify the process rather than qualifying that the emotions are complex in and of themselves and adding levels of complexity. You can simply simplify the notion by simply saying, all right, I feel this way. I feel this way. First, I will acknowledge and allow myself to feel this way. Now that I have acknowledged and allowed myself to feel this way, I remind myself that emotions are always a response to a belief. So right here, right now, these circumstances, these feelings, what must I believe to feel this? That is the simplest way to transform it. For that allows your emotions to be a window to your belief systems, allowing you to access, again, many of the non-preferred beliefs. And once you own them, acknowledge them, see how they have had you acting, you can change them by the aforementioned process. Does that make sense?
Yes, you're very interesting to talk with. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So are you. Fascinating. At this timing, allow me now to once again thank you all and express my unconditional love and appreciation for your willingness to begin to get the message. You are sending the message, you are receiving the message. Simply, you can now begin to interpret the message and allow your reality one bit at a time to serve you. It all serves you, but only if you allow it. If you do not allow it to serve you, it can seem in that sense to be obnoxious. That is up to you. How does this serve me exactly the way it is always your opportunity to transform any situation by allowing it to be of service. A conscious creator always looks at every creation as their creation, and thereby being willing to glean service or utilize your creations is a definitive expression to the universe that you believe that you created and are willing to now use everything, which then transforms the things you don't prefer by allowing you to acknowledge them and choose anew. You can only choose anew if you first know what the old choice was. So getting the message can take the form of simply allowing your situation, allowing your life, allowing the events in your reality to be obvious. How does this serve me exactly the way it is? I will leave you in that sense, colloquially speaking, with that statement and question, and bid you a most fond and loving good day.